Hi all, and welcome back to your Home and Designer's Guide. This episode, we're chatting sofas, the most used, most loved piece of furniture in a home, but often the hardest one to get right. Now, I know that choosing the right sofa might sound like a simple task, but let me tell you, as an interior designer, there is more to it than choosing one just because it is pretty. So, who is better to talk to about it than Chief Product Officer over at Loaf, Nicky Line? Nicky heads up all things product at Loaf, from product design, colour and fabric through to how and where their products are made. Nikki is, like me, an interiors obsessive, having worked in similar roles in the UK and Australia for more than 20 years, both in her own business and for brands such as Neptune and Made.com. She's also a mum of 3, living in Oxfordshire, juggling family life and the wonderful world of business and sofas. So there really is no better person to talk to about how important a beautiful but practical family home is, and also how important the part a family sofa plays in the role of making everyone happy. So in this episode, we'll be demystifying the sofa buying process in order for you to feel confident that the pieces you're investing in will not only provide optimum comfort, but will stand the test of time too. From understanding the rub counts, the composition of your sofa filling, to ensuring that your sofa will actually fit through the door, we've got you covered. So sit back, relax, and take notes. Okay, welcome, Nikki. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
As I was saying to you just off recording just then, having worked in sofas myself for a long time, it's such a random thing to be passionate about, but I really am. So I'm glad to be a fellow sofa lover.
Brilliant.
Okay, let's get stuck in. So in your intro, we mentioned that you have a passion for sofas and helping people create homes they love. But why is buying a sofa just such a big deal?
I think it's a huge privilege to work in sofas. And I think it is such a privilege because a sofa is the centre of the family home. It is where life happens. It's where people relax. It's downtime. It's shared experience. It's just everything about a home. I can get very carried away on the subject and I can get quite kind of defensive of it when people sort of talk about what you do for a living is not really, it's just design and product and stuff. I can get really, no. This is helping people to live happy lives. This is helping them to relax at home. And I'm a really passionate believer in it. And I think it's so important to us because when I think about the stories people tell you, we're so lucky working in furniture, working in retail, because customers will come and spend a lot of time thinking about their purchase. They really want to sort of understand, how to choose the right one. And when they're talking to our teams, our teams in the shacks, or throughout my career, people talk, they bring you into their life, they help you, they give you a glimpse of how they want to live. And that's such a privilege because you really can then take that into work and create products that solve for them. But they tell you stories of things like, this is the thing that I want to bring my newborn baby home from hospital and then nurse her on. Yeah. A family sofa represents often the scene for a major family argument. It can bring people back together. Yeah. It's all of those things. It's where I find certainly sitting facing forward on a sofa watching something on TV is when I get a lot of teenage download. There's kind of all really sorts of things about a sofa that mean it is just the absolute heart of the home and
more than just a piece of furniture.
Yeah, it's an investment. It's a real investment. It's also something that slightly then can define your home, i.e., if we think of, a bed can be, very few people see your bed, but a sofa is always on view and all of your friends will see it when they come around. If you've got a relatively kind of blank canvas space, then you can make a really strong design choice with your sofa, like the one I'm sitting on. You can choose for a real design style, a lovely mid-century style like this. You can go for it on fabric. We're very green today. But you could also, so you can really make a statement with it, or you can just say it's not about looks, it's all about comfort and how I'm just going to lie on it. Or there are so many things, but it really does shape the kind of look and feel of your home as well as the experience. So.
I love that. I mean, that's the perfect answer to that question.
Oh, good.
Okay, moving on to our next question. Where should someone start when they want to buy an investment piece such as a sofa? And sort of what are the key things that they should be considering when shopping around?
Yeah, that's a huge question. And over the kind of gazillion years that I've been working in sofas, I've found that there are many, many different ways that customers come into the kind of shopping journey, the things that matter most to them. But you can kind of grouped them into a few. There are some common truths, even though everybody's different, and we should celebrate that. There's some common truths. Some people will come in and it's all about what it looks like, and they just want a sofa, and it's all about that looks exactly like the one they've got in their head, or something they've seen, or just something that's going to just scream design. Design's the most important thing. Other people will come in and it's all about the space they've got to fill. So I need a sofa to go in my, conservatory, or I've got a really small apartment that's really narrow. I want the longest sofa I can fit in that space. Those are two. Did you want something that really kind of screams design? Do you want something that's really kind of your first decision is kind of functional, how it fills the space, and then you'll think design, and then you'll think, what do I like that will work in that space? I think comfort is something that is huge. It's an obvious thing to say, but people can often get so hooked up on what it looks like, or the space it's got to fill, or the colour it's going to be. That's another thing that people are often really keen on, is actually how they're going to live in it, how they like to sit on a sofa, what their definition of comfort is something that I think can sometimes get lost. So what I'd say is, whatever your kind of start point for thinking about your sofa, is it what it looks like? Is it where it fits? Is it the room it's going into? My top advice is always to think about how you're going to live in that sofa. It's end use, what you want it to be, and how you're going to live on it, and therefore what kind of comfort you're after.
Yeah.
Because if you get so hooked up on a very kind of upright, formal, less squishy sofa that looks, amazing and pristine, but actually you kind of want to relax with your boyfriend watching a movie every Saturday night on it, then the two things don't really go together.
Yeah.
So I think thinking about the end use you want, what are you really kind of getting that sofa for? What's the space it's going into? How do you live? That's how I'd start thinking about it, because then you can match comfort and design most quickly to get to an end result. I don't know if this directly answers the question, but we've been thinking a lot about this at Loaf recently, and thinking, it's really hard to decode all of the language of kind of comfort and end use and all of that for people. There's phrases in the market now when you buy a sofa, like sort of modular and chaise, and and I think it must be really hard to wrap your head around how to shop for it. I guess what we kind of try to think, and what we're really bringing to life at the moment to try and help sort of customers navigate, is really comfort can be broken down into sort of how do you sit on a sofa? And we've kind of done loads of research and talking to our customers, talking to all of our teams. And there's kind of broadly 3 ways people love sitting on sofas.
Okay. And
one of them is they like to kind of sit up very upright. It's kind of more of a 2 feet on the floor thing.
Yeah.
As you can see, I'm definitely a curler upper. I've got one foot on the floor today because I feel like I should be on best behaviour. But it's legs curled up.
Yeah.
And then there's the kind of, sprawl, lounge, lie, all of that. And we kind of think about our sofas at Loaf in kind of those 3 buckets. So we've always got something across looks to meet those 3 different things. And obviously there's a different level of comfort required to deliver those 3 things. There are different things that matter: the height of the arm, the depth of the seat, the height of... So I think if you can kind of think how you like to sit on the sofa and how you'd like others to sit on the sofa, it doesn't mean that one sofa only suits that particular way of sitting, because of course I could sit up on this sofa with both feet on the floor. But it just all depends on... It's a good start point for people to think about, how do me and my family like to sit on this sofa?
Yeah.
And often, for those who are lucky enough to have a choice of rooms for a sofa, there's this whole thing. I can remember, going to my grandparents and there was a best room that, nobody ever went in, but the sofas there were all sort of super.
Yeah. When my parents have that, they have like a formal living room. And they have upright, smart sofas. Then in the kitchen, where everyone is relaxed, it's like proper leather, slouchy,
really
vibe.
Slouchy, deep, probably low in comfort. Yeah. So I think that's kind of something that we kind of try to think about. That I certainly try to think about with our designers, is that we've got a choice of that, because comfort is very, very individual. But yeah, I'd encourage people. It's very easy to get hooked up on design, and obviously you've got to have something that you love and you fall in love with. But there should be enough choice. I think the place to start for me is what's the end use?
Yeah.
How do you like to sit on that sofa? How do you want to sit on that sofa?
I think that's
and then it kind of falls into place from there.
Yeah.
But there are lots of components that I can geek out on a bit more if you want to. Like,
well, I was thinking that's a fantastic answer. But what about some of the more logistical elements of buying a sofa? So when it comes to Loaf, should they be asking, what's the warranty? What's the frame made from? Like all of those kind of more technical aspects. Is there anything that you can kind of guide the listeners on?
There's lots of things that should matter. So if you've kind of got that, how you're going to live with that sofa in comfort, and that you're going to get something that you then think looks great. Those are the two sort of basics. I think the other things that are really important is to understand where and how the sofa's made, because there's a difference. There's no right or wrong, but there's a difference between sort of sofas that are sort of mass-produced all to be exactly the same, or sofas that may be a little bit more handmade.
Yeah.
Understanding the frame, whether the frame is, and that usually comes across in the warranty, as you say.
Yeah.
What the frame's made of, kind of hardwoods, those sorts of things will tend to give you an idea on longevity. Warranty, isn't it an important part? I would say, because for an investment,
an average, like a good warranty, do you think?
They really vary, and people take different approaches. But I would say, anything, an average time that people keep a sofa, here you go, fun fact, in the UK is sort of 5 to 7 years, and sometimes longer. So I would say anything that lasts longer than that is probably longer than most people want to keep a sofa for. That's kind of how I would think about it. But asking the questions of the people who you're looking at in the when you're looking online, the information should be available. If you're in a shop, just talking to people about how and where that frame is made, how and where it's upholstered, and then all sorts of things that also contribute are obviously the dimensions of the sofa. Not only do they contribute hugely to creating the comfort. You can have and Loaf has been traditionally very famous for them, really sort of lovely, deep, low, slouchy sofas. But we also have got some sofas that are, that are shallower, that are still really comfy, but the height of the back will help how you sit in it. All of those different ingredients for comfort that come through dimensions are important to know, and they make a difference to that sit style. But they also obviously make a difference about whether it's going to fit in your space.
Yeah, and that actually leads me on to my next question, because it's what are the common mistakes you see people making? And I mean, I've seen, when I used to work in a sofa showroom, I saw that all the time.
And it's so heartbreaking, I think. It is awful. It's such an investment purchase, we've talked about. People have got their hearts set on it. They've usually been saving up for it.
Waiting a few weeks as well.
Waiting for particularly for one of our sofas, because they are handmade to order. And then you've sort of got all of this excitement, and then it doesn't fit into the house because of the difficulties with, particularly bigger sofas, of getting into some spaces, apartments, just front doors, round a corner in a hallway.
Yeah.
Or secondly, when it arrives in the space, it doesn't, in the room, it's too big. It's too big.
I see that a lot.
It's too small.
A lot of clients actually come to us after having bought a sofa because they would have ordered it and it doesn't look right, or it's too big, and then they want help. But by that point, they spent thousands of pounds on it, and it's kind of, you have to kind of hodgepodge and work around it.
And
work backwards. And it's such a shame, because it is the key thing in the room.
It really is. And it's, we spent ages creating this kind of will it fit guide, I think is the very inventive name we give it on the Loaf website. But we spend a lot of time with our teams trying to get our store staff to feel really confident about, obviously you can't go and tell the customer into the customer's home to check, but getting a whole series of dimensions from them and working with them to make sure, one, it'll fit in. But I think secondly, we love taking the time, and I always do it with friends, is literally what are the dimensions of the room. And then one of the things I always recommend to anybody, it's so obvious, is literally get the Sunday paper when you finished using it, cut out the dimensions and literally map it out on your floor space. Because what sounds good in theory, or we'll be able to squeeze around that gap to get to the fridge or whatever, actually in practice is it. So that kind of model of putting something on the floor,
it really helps.
Really
masking
helpful.
tape as well is a good one.
Very good one.
Because I think a lot of people will just assume that stuff fits.
Yeah.
but when you really put it down in physical form, you actually see, whoa, that does take up way more space than you thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's always, I mean, it's always a kind of ratio between, depends on the space, but if it is a room where all you want to do is a kind of TV room, then, or it's a relaxing room and all you want is just sitting space and nothing else matters, brilliant, fill the space with a sofa. But at the same time, you do want to be able to move around it if it's got more thoroughfare.
In terms of access into the property, it's, again, as I said, a common mistake we see. Are there any kind of like golden rules that people can do? So for example, like, bearing in mind the width of the door in comparison to the height of the sofa?
Yeah, totally. So one thing I always encourage, because generally there's sort of one way that a sofa will go in, it's a long thing. Modular sofas are brilliant if you have got access issues, and they're brilliant to, because they can actually be put together in pieces in the room. There are, I'm sitting on one. This is, there are sofas now which can be fully disassembled and then assembled on the spot.
Because this one has removable arms. Is that right?
The whole thing. The whole thing comes apart. It's completely. I don't like using the word flat pack because it makes it sound like it's kind of in some way.
You never know.
But it's not. It's completely. It can be disassembled, and then it's literally built. It goes into a complete one box, and then it gets literally put together completely on site. So that helps specifically with people with access issues.
Yes, because sometimes, especially in London with Victorian townhouses or small flats, you do have a quite decent sized living room, but the narrow hallways make it a nightmare.
Stops you from getting in. Yeah. So, but the other thing that's really helpful is always to measure the height of the back, because legs can often be unscrewed and put on site, but the height of the back, because if you imagine the sofa being flipped and carried through, if that's not too deep, not too high, then generally you can. The only thing to really think about is if you've got one of those hallways where you pop in the door and then go straight around a corner. And then I'd have to say, look at your windows and your back doors, because that's really hard. Modular's probably definitely best there.
This episode is sponsored by Loaf, the laid-back British furniture makers on a mission to help you lead a more comfortable life. As an interior designer, it is essential that the products I recommend to clients are long-lasting pieces that are not only stylish, but genuinely comfortable too. And Loaf brings together iconic designs, quality craftsmanship, and a unique comfort formula, which is why it's my top choice for both myself and my clients. Their sofas, beds, and armchairs are all expertly handcrafted here in the UK, and they even deliver and assemble for you in the room of your choice. So whether it's a sofa for your family snug or a bed for your boutique-style bedroom, I recommend giving your home a comfort upgrade with Loaf. Let's move on to the next question. So we've kind of touched upon comfort already.
Yeah.
But what would you say are the key components for comfort?
So I think we talked a little bit about which, in terms of the elements for comfort, which room you're going to sit in, and the business about sitting upright, like you're on your mum's or your grandma's sofa. And obviously that all comes from sort of dimensions. Yeah. A TV room sofa, for example, you might want to have much bigger dimensions. So I think dimensions are a massive component for comfort. We obsess. I have a thing about arms. So that's one of my other factors, because the thickness of the arm, the height of the arm, the upholstery of the arm, so how much sort of softness it's got onto it. That's a huge part of it. Yeah. And the relationship, this is my key one, because for me, the idea that you sink into a sofa is really lovely. I'm kind of a but some people quite like a more formal sit. But if you really want to sink in, then the sort of drop between where you sink into the top of the cushion and the arm, it's got to feel really good.
Because I have a sofa and the arms are quite low.
Yeah.
And I love it personally when I'm relaxing, but when I'm hosting or I have friends over, they all just kind of sitting a bit like this.
Yes.
Because it's so deep, and it annoys me because I don't feel like I can host properly in it. Yeah. Because they're not fully relaxed.
Yes, absolutely. And these are the choices that you've sometimes got to make. One of the ways you can solve with that is with really, I find, is with really like scatter cushions, obviously, to help people sitting up, and then little side tables, those kinds of pieces that people can use instead to put things on, and that kind of tends to pull them forward. But I think sometimes you have got to make that compromise between, is this sofa for me, or is this sofa for when I have people around? And usually there's a halfway house. Yeah. But I do think people are very personal about arms, and there should be enough choice but it's something to think about for sure.
Definitely.
And one of the things that I always like, we think about a lot when creating sofas at Loaf, is this idea that you should be able to sort of land on your sofa in practical family life for sure. Kind of from any angle and not feel frame, that sort of feeling of timber hardness. It's all about comfort. So we're often thinking about, because lots of people do lie down, Not when they're hosting. And that idea that you could sort of, your arm is doing a bit of a pillow job as well with some cushions is important. So I think dimensions, an arm definitely create comfort, but probably the most important, I mean, it's hard to rank them, is the filling. What is going into the cushiony bits of the sofa, so the seat cushions and the back cushions, as well as then the kinds of foams being used on the arms and the build of foam around it. But it's really the seat and the backs.
And people have such different opinions on it, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
And I think there is lots of choice out there. Some people will let you actually choose within one model how you want to hard or soft you want it to sit. I think it is important. And there is a kind of two scales going on with fillings, I always think.
Yeah.
There's comfort, how hard or soft you like to sit. But there's also a kind of maintenance piece.
Yes.
Which sounds a bit bizarre. But for me, that's about, well, for everybody, that's about how much kind of effort do you want to put into keeping your sofa looking nice? And that is a choice because, and to make that really real, what I mean is, feathers will always make something a little bit softer, but feathers just need plumping. They need a cushion with feathers in it. We all know what that we can imagine
that. Is me, yeah. Because I have a foam back and a feather base, and I do love it, but regular maintenance and plumping 2-3 times a day.
Yeah,
But I don't mind it because I knew that was going to be the case.
Exactly. And that's how you like to sit on your sofa.
Yeah.
So I think it's, so long as you're clear when you're buying how you want to kind of sit and lie on it, and then how much energy and effort you're prepared to into. And some people, I have a friend who is she's a real kind of mid-century fan, and she loves clean lines, and she likes the sort of sharpness of that design era.
Yeah.
Would move into the Barbican if she could, she's all of that. And I think, so for her, the idea of very sort of soft, crumpled feather product isn't right. And even though she might like it to be a bit softer than some of those sofas often are, she's not prepared to have anything looking a bit off, and she knows she can't maintain it because she's got 3 boys.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of made her decision for her. That's a compromise.
And so, am I correct in saying that the kind of main fillings are feather, foam, and then a combination of the two?
Yeah, there's sort of fibre,
okay.
Which is usually more used in back cushions, but sometimes mainly at the bottom end of the market and in seats. There's foam, obviously, and there's the world of foam. When I say there's foam, I mean the world of foam
types.
is really it's really innovative and complex and exciting in some ways. There's lots of work being done on from a sort of sustainability perspective on foam, but there's also really interesting work about kind of innovation for different levels of comfort. I mean, later, if you think mattress technology as well is being applied to sofas. So there's lots and lots going on with foam. So it's not just as though one foam defines. A foam can sit so differently depending on the density. Lots of different things you can do with foam. And then there's feathers, and as you say, often a blend. Those things don't always have to be used on their own. They can be blended and mixed. And I think even when you blend and mix them, you can get very different results. There's also things like channeling. So we've got a lovely seat cushion that has that. I think is a kind of, we try to have something that fits as many ticks, is as practical for as many people as possible. You've always got things that polarize. So someone who wants a super soft, we've got lovely, super 100% feather, go for your life. And then someone who wants that more formal thing, here's a foam block. But that kind of bit in the middle, which you mentioned, which is a kind of foam core seat cushion, but then we'll have a sort of almost like a duvet. If you imagine a duvet that you zip round it, full of feather. It might be feather and fibre. It might be, and that you can also channel like a duvet so that the feather and fibre stays in place.
Yeah.
And that helps with the maintenance. So there's lots of different sort of levels and ways to put it together.
When I used to work in sofas, I found that sort of foam feather wrap combo was probably the most popular.
Yeah.
Is that the same?
Yeah, I think, if you look at the whole of the UK market, probably it's still just would be 100% foam because there's a lot of, sofas.
so
But if you, and it's the slightly better value option.
Is this more all foam?
But we don't use all, we don't have anything that's all foam.
Okay,
No, so we'll always put that feather wrapper or that feather topper or so on to get that, because I think it's horses for courses. But there's something unique to Loaf, which is always about sink into. It is a little bit more relaxed. It's a little bit less formal.
Yeah,
and that doesn't mean it's right for every single. Will vary, and I think it's important. The thing that makes comfort is the combination of all of those factors. So I think when a sofa just is amazing, and that fabulous kind of, George Smith scrolled arm sofa that's endured for all of these years, or, something like that, they're just so incredible. And that's because they have this combination of dimensions, arm and fillings, and then obviously all the amazing fabrics and colours that just kind of, they all come together. So what we spend a lot of time thinking about is the perfect recipe for comfort for that design.
Yeah.
Because every single design, based on its dimensions, based on its proportions, based on its look, needs something a little bit different. And then we've got a key set of ingredients we always use at Loaf that we never compromise on. And we'll kind of, it's a bit like a recipe. We'll remix those in the different weights and combinations and measures for that particular design with that depth and with that height and so on to try to make it come together. That's how we think about it.
What's your personal favourite?
At Loaf?
Yeah.
My favourite sofa.
And sort of filling as well.
Okay. My favourite filling definitely is I love a feather wrap. Yeah, 100%. Exactly the same as you. And probably a bit more on the feather than a sort of a very strong foam core. A very relaxed, saggy, baggy friend is my favourite thing. I like to be really soft and quite low as well.
Nice.
Something that the dog can get onto is really important to me.
Important for me too.
And then in terms of sofa, probably goes with that. I quite like. I've always liked sort of French sofa design, that kind of very low, relaxed, loose cover kind of. It just feels a little bit less formal. So those designs,
Just circling back to the question about comfort again.
Yes.
Another thing for me that I think is super important when it comes to comfort is the depth of the sofa.
Yes.
Because the narrower the sofa, the more sort of formal and upright you sit, right? And then the deeper, the more slouchy.
Yep.
So I think that's not something that people, when they're buying a sofa, really ever consider.
No, and you're so right. And so when I say, I think the three things that kind of combine to make comfort, the proportions, I mean, one of the most important proportions is the depth. Yeah. So I think the height off the floor of the seat.
Interesting.
The depth and the height of the back are the three most important dimensions. And then there's this thing called, people might hear it's discussed and some sort of stores will talk about it, which is rake, which is this combination of when the seat of the sofa and the back meet. It's the angle they meet at, basically.
Okay.
And that can come a little bit through legs as well, but it's effectively how sort of how upright is the back, or how have you got a bit of an angle there to kind of sit back into.
I've never thought about that, but that makes complete sense. Yeah.
It's like how sort of far back are you going, or how upright are you? But I think the depth of a sofa is, I was talking about sit style, our new kind of, this whole approach of, when I sit on a sofa, I never even sit down with my feet. I always sit expecting to do this. Yeah. So I've got to have something deep enough to do that on. And then my sort of view is, well, if someone wants to sit on my sofa who doesn't like to sit like that, then they can pop some cushions behind them and they're perfectly comfortable. And I think this view that you have to have a very deep sofa in order to be able to kind of, there's all sorts of ways to think about it, the depth of the back cushion. There's lots more flexibility now as people are just thinking, how do we get great looking sofas? There's so much innovation into different people's homes with different spaces. So, yeah.
Okay, let's talk durability. So what are some of the key factors in ensuring people are buying sofas that will last a long time?
Definitely. Well, we've already talked a little bit about warranty.
Yeah.
So I would, encourage people always to inquire about warranty. But the frame is a huge part of it. Okay. And then I think we've talked about maintenance and cushions. Obviously, that's a kind of, all cushions should last as long as as the sofa's warranted for. So that should be fine. It just depends how much you want to maintain them, really.
Mm.
That's less, but that's a kind of different thing to durability. I guess the other key part, and I can't believe we haven't talked about fabric yet.
I know, I was thinking that.
So fabric is a key part of it. And I think the durability of fabric does differ. And I think, again, there's no right or wrong. It's all end use. This piece about where is your sofa going? How do you want to live with it? And what's the job it's going to do for your life is the vital thing. Because for, I don't know, for maybe your mum's smart room, she could have a silk sofa.
Doesn't often get used. It's sort of Christmas, birthdays, whatever.
Yeah.
But then the one in the sofa, it's everyday use.
The one in the kitchen needs to be leather.
Yeah.
So I think, there are choices to make, and that does really contribute. But because, particularly if you're having a sort of sofa made in a made-to-order business like Loaf, you have that choice to match it with your sort of lifestyle. If you've got messy kids, but sofa fabric will really contribute to durability for sure.
Yeah, visually as well.
Yes. And obviously important to fall in love with. Yeah.
And so one of the things that we used to pay attention to when it comes to fabrics is certain sort of like tests that you can do.
Sure.
Did Loaf do anything with like rub count and Martindale?
Yeah. So I think the way to sort of cut through it, because it sounds like a really complicated world, I'd say, is that there is fabric testing. Martindale counts basically talk to how durable fabrics are.
Yeah.
But without getting into all of the sort of bamboozling people with all of the different numbers, we've just made a call at Loaf that all of our fabrics have to have the highest, super high Martindale rub counts. So we don't put that choice onto the customer. They're just done. Because otherwise, I think we know that we want anyone in a family home to be able to buy into Loaf. Therefore, we take that away.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just not fair. And that's the kind of customer that we're talking to.
Yeah. And I actually find the Martindale rub test quite interesting because, you'll know way more of this than I do. But do they literally just it's like a machine, right? And they just rub it?
Yeah, it's literally like an automated, they fake the durability that would come over a lifetime of a fabric. Yeah, absolutely. And they just rub it, and try to destroy it effectively.
But I think that's fascinating. Like, it's just not something that the average person would ever think about.
No.
But to us, it's it's like a standard quality, isn't it?
It is very important, and so we'll eliminate anything under a certain rub count, and everything will be over that. So therefore, nobody has to think rub count. But I think there is still a durability piece around fabrics. It's this durability and maintenance argument again, because, for example, our two best-selling fabrics, lovely, enduring fabrics that will always be popular and look fabulous, linen, velvet. Completely different. Velvet is, it's a man-made, sort of fairly bulletproof. It gives that very clean, pristine, we're sitting on it, very clean, pristine look. And it will always tend to look more even and finished. It'll cover a multitude of sins on sort of plumping and all of that kind of thing. Linen relaxes. Linen has inherent wonderful natural slight flaws in it. Linen is breathable, it's relaxed. The texture is different. It's not so uniform. It does give. So as you sort of sit, you'll get that spot where the dog always lies. So I think it's not about, both will be durable enough to way outlast that sofa. There's no problem, but it's just that sort of choice but with a linen cushion, you're always going to have to make it look that little bit more. So I think it's about making sure that everything has a super high Martindale, and then you're flying. And then it's really, what look do you want and how do you match that? The one thing that is really important with fabric, though, and there's all sorts of ways to solve for it across all sorts of different businesses, is there are different things you can do to then make it more durable. So some people will offer a kind of aftercare solution where they'll spray a sofa to protect it.
That from sort of like UV or something,
or from spills and damage.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Whereas we do our 90% of our fabrics have what's called clever. We call it clever, which just means they're spill resistant.
So do you need to stain guard your clever fabrics?
No.
Okay.
So I think there's different ways of doing it. So some people will stain guard. Exactly. That's a spray that goes on after the whole thing's made.
And Loaf do offer that, don't they?
We offer something called an insurance policy called Castellan, which is then an accidental damage insurance policy.
Which is almost better, really.
Which covers absolutely everything. So if the cat scratches it, because the clever fabrics mean it's wonderful, it's spill resistance. And that is something that we put onto the fabric before the sofa's upholstered. So all of the fabrics will just have that on. And that means that if you knock a cup of tea
Yeah.
and you're there, you can just dab it off.
That was my
and
question,
that's the relief.
Okay.
But obviously, and that's wonderful. So we've taken some of the pain away from customers. Everything, it's all clever. I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
But actually, the reality is that if a kid turns an ice cream upside down and doesn't tell you for 3 hours, that's not sitting on the surface. That's not spill resistance. We're into big stain territory.
Yeah.
That's where something like an insurance policy can come in to protect you.
I had a hairdresser come and do like highlights on me a few years ago, and she spilt bleach all over my velvet sofa and didn't tell me. Luckily, I had
You
that
did have an insurance policy, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and that came in very handy.
I bet it did. And anybody who's listening or watching who has, animals and young kids will know, well, even I'm clumsy enough to spill plenty of red wine. It just, that's a thing. And then the difference really is whether you come to it quickly or whether you don't. But it also, the great thing about those insurance policies, whoever they come from, is just also there's stuff like, if it fades in the light or in the sunlight, or if you've got a cat that scratches, all of that sort of stuff.
It's important, because people will have lots of, what do you call it, big extensions and stuff now, big glass boxes. And UV really is a big,
it really can fade.
Colour fader, isn't it? Yeah.
I can't stand it when people say, well, don't put your sofa in natural light. I'm like, everybody wants to sit in the sunshine
it's true.
in this country. Why on earth wouldn't we? Yeah. Just the one thing is, though, that with fabric and colour is that I would always say to anybody is you do have to just fall in love with what it looks like as well. You can get so hung up on all of this, but if you love a green sofa and you've thought for a green sofa and the velvet just floats your boat, then you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Because I think ultimately, sofas can be reupholstered in time, but ultimately, fabric and colour is what's going to really change the look and feel of any sofa in your space. So I would spend more time researching and being comfortable with that than almost anything else.
Sound advice. What would your advice be to someone who loves a lighter colour fabric in their home, but just feels like with the family and stuff, it's just not practical? Because I hear that a lot as with clients.
Yeah. At Loaf, you choose one of our clever fabrics, and then you've got the spill resistance benefit. And if you're elsewhere, get a spray, get an insurance policy. I think if a lighter colour fabric is what you really, really love and what's going to work in your space, there are so many innovative solutions to make that a little bit more risk-free.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the space, but often dark sofas, it completely depends. In a lovely dark space, they just fill but a big dark sofa in the middle of a beautiful light room with everything else light can be quite a sort of sucker of all of the light that's around. So I think it's just kind of, if you love a light coloured sofa, and I've raised 3 kids and had plenty of dogs with light coloured linen, Belgian sort of linen coloured sofas, and you just have to accept, either get a loose cover and then you can take it off and clean it, get it reupholstered. But frankly, if you choose the right fabric and it's got some stain resistance applied, you can generally get most things off.
I think that's sound advice.
I think you've got to go with what you love. You've got to.
It's so true. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Design Hotline. So this is where we discuss a problem and guide our listeners on how to solve them.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, so the first one is from Roxanne. She says, my husband is 6'4" and he really struggles with getting good neck support on sofas. However, I'm quite short and I prefer something low to the ground. Is there a sofa range that's a nice sweet spot between the two of us? And second question, would you advise something with just a foam back rather than just a feather back?
That's really challenging. When you've got two people of really different heights. That is really, really challenging. I think the thing I'm struggling with is I don't know how Roxanne likes to sit on her sofa. So that's the thing that's throwing me off course. I think if I come back to the Loaf range, there are plenty of sofas that would address it. There's a great range. Smithy sofa has got this lovely high supportive back that would be perfect, but it's also got a nice deep seat.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it would be absolutely perfect for to cater for the partner. The reason that I think would also may well work for Roxanne is because depending on whether she is like you and I, a sloucher, it's not so, the rake and the seat depth are not so extreme that it would mean that she couldn't also be comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's also, all Loaf sofas are ever so slightly lower than the average as well. So I think that sounds like it could be a really good thing for them. The only thing I'd say is on the back cushion, there's no reason at all to go for foam over a feather back cushion at all. I think the right sort of pattern cut and so on back cushion, and really the support behind on the frame should give them exactly what they need. So they don't need to worry about that if it's the right quality of sofa.
One of the sofas our clients are obsessed with from Loaf is the Squishmeister.
Yes.
We find that so popular with everyone. Do you think that one would work for her?
No, unfortunately not. I would love to always push our sofas, but no, Squishmeister actually has a low back.
Okay.
So the arm sort of runs around at the same height as the back, and that means, and it's relatively low.
Okay.
The great thing there is that you'll see when you look at the back of a sofa where the bit that's behind the back cushion sort of goes up behind the back cushion.
Yeah.
That's what they want, really, to make sure that it's got that extra support for someone of that height, that extra neck support. And so Smithy would definitely be an option. They want something slightly less deep in the seat, then Squisharoo would be an option, but they'd be the two that I'd start with.
So the next one is from Lucy, and she's asked, I'm in the process of buying a sofa for my open plan family kitchen living dining space. I really love the look of lighter linens, but I am torn because they're not family friendly. Typically, what would your advice be on the best available fabric for me from the Loaf range?
Yeah, I think it's back to what I said before. I really light fabrics can be family friendly, and the two ways that I'd come at it for her, and I promise I speak with personal experience there. So the ways that you could come at that from Loaf. So our Bruges sofa is a loose cover, and that works, and we only sell it in our linens and cottons. So to use that, and then you've got, it's clever. The fabrics are clever, so they're spill resistant anyway. But if you do have a overwhelming kind of moment of family chaos, you can absolutely take the covers off and get them cleaned and put them back on. So I think that is.
I mean, that solves the answer. Definitely,
totally. Yeah. The other thing that I would say is that particularly our sort of clever cotton, which is a really lovely fabric it's particularly easy to clean, particularly easy to sponge. So I think that's a fabric that's very, very hard wearing and would work really well, and it looks great in the lighter colours. So
with the removable ones, if she's going to have them washed, is it best that she takes them to like a dry cleaner?
Yes, absolutely.
Can't do it at home sort of thing?
No, and to be honest, I don't know many people who have a washing machine with a tub big enough to cope with the size of our sofas. So yeah, professional cleaning. Yeah.
It's just nice to have the option, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
That whole loose cover look as well, I love it. It's so much more informal, but actually I wouldn't say it is more informal. It's just relaxed.
Yeah, and this style is quite nice and contemporary, so it's got a square arm and so on. Yeah. It's not really kind of overtly Frenchy loose cover at all.
No.
It's quite tailored still. The covers go on really easily. We provide a nice little wooden spoon so you can slot it in around the edges. Just get into all the
really good.
But it's just one of those, that would be the kind of extreme end, but I really honestly, velvet is also bulletproof. So if Lucy's a velvet customer, then the velvet is.
So this is going to require your attention.
Oh gosh,
you might need to sit up actually.
Right, okay. I've got to turn into a sit up, so sit style. Okay.
Okay, so this is called 60 seconds of rapid fire questions.
Right.
So you and all my other guests have 20 questions fired at you, and then it's whoever out of all my guests gets the most wins. There is no prize though. It's just pride.
So I'm just going for it.
You're just going for it.
60 seconds.
On the spot, you just got to do the first thing that comes to your head.
Okay.
Okay, right. Let me get my timer ready.
Love that.
Okay, 60 seconds starting now. What's your favourite Loaf sofa?
Big Easy.
Best part of your job?
Creating amazing products for people.
Favourite city for design inspiration?
Copenhagen.
Feather or foam?
Feather.
Netflix binge or weekly viewing?
Netflix binge.
Corner sofa or classic three-seater?
Classic three-seater.
Feature walls, hot or not?
Not.
What makes you happy in your home?
My dog.
Go-to takeaway on the sofa?
Thai.
Design era you'd love to travel to?
Or something Victorian. Georgian.
Your favourite homeware item you own?
A beautiful Dibben teapot.
Favourite high street furniture store?
High street furniture store. Zara Home.
Scatter cushions. Less is more or more is better?
Less big, plump, feathery ones.
Nice. Favourite colour trend you're currently loving?
Don't love trends, but kind of love everyone's loving colour again.
Nice. Favourite snack to eat when lounging at home?
Crisps.
Up. I'll let you have it. You got 15. That's pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's where most people lie. I think only Tash from Lick got the most. She was at like 19 or something.
Was she?
Yeah, she did well.
That's impressive.
Well, you did well. Loved it. Well, look, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining me. It's been really lovely to chat. I don't think I've ever talked to someone about sofas for this long, but secretly...
I'm so sorry.
No, I loved it because it means I can geek out because it's what I used to do. It's actually where I started my career. So it's been such a joy.
Well, it's a real pleasure to talk to another sofa geek. I can hear that you are one inside. So It's been lovely.
Thank you so much. That's a wrap on today's episode in partnership with Loaf. I hope it's helped make sense of what to look for when buying your next investment sofa and just help you avoid any common mistakes. Thank you so much again to Loaf for sponsoring this episode, and to Nikki, of course, for chatting to me and nerding out about all things sofas. It was really great to speak to another fellow interior design lover. As usual, please do rate, review, and subscribe this podcast to help us grow, and do go and have a look over on Loaf's website over at loaf.com. For all your sofa and furniture needs, they've definitely got you covered.